Good morning. How are you? Glad you're here. We're going to get started as soon as I do attendance. Start with a new lesson. Read the sign. You've got a few minutes. If you have not finished those essays, they need to be completed. It is for a grade. Oh, where is he? Please remember to have your cameras on unless you are working on an assignment. Make sure your cameras are on so that you're not in the waiting room. Right now, while I do attendance, work on your essays. All right, we're gonna get started. Before we do, if you need help with your essay or have questions about it, put it in the chat and I will help you. We have about 2 minutes. Anyone needs help with their essay, let me know. Now's the time to ask. No questions? Okey-dokey. All right, you are going to need some paper and a pencil or a pen. You have to take some notes. And as you are taking those notes, write them down. Then we will have a discussion about what you see and what you infer. Okay, so we are working on inferencing as well as author's purpose and citing information. So what you're going to do for this first slide, number 1, write number 1 down, picture. What is this a picture of? Remember, you have 5 senses. You also have your speculation on what the picture, what is happening in this picture. Write it down. 4 to 5 details about the image. And then you want to make an inference, a sentence inference. So what can you infer about this picture? I can infer that blank is whatever because of what? What is your inference? Write your details first. All cameras should be on, please. All of your cameras should be on. What can you infer? Turn your cameras on. All right, number 2. Write number 2. What do you see? What is this about? What do you see? If your cameras are not on, you're going in the waiting room. What do you see? What can you infer? All right, number 3. Oops, sorry. Number 3. What can you infer? What can you infer? Because of what? Ready? Next slide. Number 4. What do you see? What do you know? What does it make you think of? Cameras are on. What can you infer? Number 5. Oops. What do you see? What do you know? What can you infer? What do you see? What do you know? What can you infer? Number 6. Oops. What do you see? What do you know? What can you infer? Miguel, I'll go back through these for you. You need to write down 4 to 5 details. Okay? Number 7. What do you see? What do you already know? What can you infer? Last time, guys, turn your cameras on. What do you know? What do you see? What can you infer? Number 8. What do you see? What do you know? What can you infer? Number 9, same thing. What do you see? What do you know? What can you infer because of what? Number 10, what do you see? What do you know? What can you infer? Last one, number 11. What do you see? What can you infer? What do you know? Write all these notes in your notebook. Okay, in chat, just tell me what you think this new story is going to be about. Oh, I'm sorry, did I go too fast? Let me go through it one more time. Okay, number 1. Good, Elaine. Good job. Oh, excellent, Bianca. That's perfect. Anyone else care to guess? I'm not going to give you their answers. It might be Sylvia. Sinai, that's a perfect word. Very good, Alexandra. Good, Miguel. Excellent, Calvin. Excellent, Jasmine. It is. That's part of it. A big, big part of it. Number 2. Thank you to those of you who are participating appropriately. Good job. Any other speculations, observations, thoughts? Number 3. Number 4. Number 5. Number 6. You're right, Jasmine. That's going to be a very important part of the story. Number 7. Number 8. Number 9. Number 10. Number 11. All right. So most of you guessed farms and food and healthy diets and what's in stores, what's carried on trucks, chickens and cornfields, omnivores, meat eating and plant eating people. Excellent, excellent choices, observations. So we will be completing, and I notice I wonder form. We're not doing it right now, but first we're going to listen to our story. And I'm going to put the text up here so you can see it. Hang on. You're going to be able to tell me what type of story you think this is. Part 1.
Chapter 1, page 17. How Corn Took Over America. A Field of Corn. The average supermarket doesn't seem much like a field of corn. Take a look around. What do you see? There's a large air-conditioned room. There are long aisles and shelves piled high with boxes and cans. There are paper goods and diapers and magazines. But that's not all. Look again. Somewhere behind the brightly colored packaging, underneath the labels, covered with information, there is a mountain of corn. You may not be able to see it, but it's there. I'm not talking about the corn in the produce section. That's easy to recognize. In the spring and summer, the green ears of corn sit out in plain view with all the other fruits and vegetables. You can see a stack of ears next to the eggplants, onions, apples, bananas, and potatoes. But that's not a mountain of corn, is it? Keep looking. Go through the produce section to the back of the supermarket and you'll find the meats. There's corn here too, but it's a little harder to see. Where is it? Here's a hint. What did the cows and pigs and chickens eat before they became cuts of meat? Mainly corn. Go a little further now. There's still a lot of corn hiding in this supermarket. How about those long aisles of soft drinks made from corn? That freezer case stuffed with TV dinners? Mostly corn. Those donuts and cookies and chips? They're made with a whole lot of corn. Supermarkets look like they contain a huge variety of food. The shelves are stuffed with thousands of different items. There are dozens of different soups and salad dressings, cases stuffed with frozen dinners, and ice cream and meat. The range of food choices is amazing. Yet, if you look a little closer, you begin to discover it's all corn. Well, maybe not all corn, but there's still an awful lot of it hiding here. A lot more than you suspect. We think of our supermarkets as offering a huge variety of food, yet most of that huge variety comes from one single plant. How can this be? Corn is what feeds the steer that becomes your steak. Corn feeds the chicken and the pig. Corn feeds the catfish raised in a fish farm. Corn-fed chickens laid the eggs. Corn feeds the dairy cows that produce the milk, cheese, and ice cream. See those chicken nuggets in the freezer case? They are really corn wrapped up in more corn. The chicken was fed corn. The batter is made from corn flour. The starch that holds it together is cornstarch. The oil it was fried in was corn oil. But that's not all. Read the label on any bag of chips, candy bar, or frozen snack. How many ingredients do you recognize? Maltodextrin, monosodium glutamate, absorbic acid? What are those things? What about lecithin and mono-D and triglycerides? They're all made from corn. The golden food coloring, made from corn. Even the citric acid that keeps the nugget fresh is made from corn. If you wash down your chicken nuggets with almost any soft drink, you are drinking corn with your corn. Since the 1980s, almost all sodas and most of the fruit drinks sold in the supermarket are sweetened with something called high fructose corn syrup. Read the label on any processed food, and corn is what you'll find. Corn is in the non-dairy creamer and the Cheese Whiz, the frozen yogurt and the TV dinner, the canned fruit and the ketchup. It's in the candy, the cake mixes, the mayonnaise, mustard, hot dogs, and bologna, the salad dressings, and even in some vitamins. Yes, in a Twinkie too. There are some 45,000 items in the average American supermarket, and more than a quarter of them now contain corn. This goes for the non-food items as well. Everything from toothpaste and cosmetics to disposable diapers, trash bags, and even batteries. Corn is in places you would never think to look. It's in the wax that coats the other vegetables in the produce section. It goes into the coating that makes the cover of a magazine shine. It's even part of the supermarket building because the wallboard, the flooring, and many other building materials are made with corn.
Okay, so far we are talking about one product that consumes everything. Put in the chat what that product is. What have we heard so far? Absolutely. Good job. Nice. All about the corn, right? I didn't even know that corn was in our billboards and our wall boards and our flooring. That's all news to me too. Very cool. All right, next.
Carbon from corn, page 20. You are what you eat, it's often said. If this is true, then what we are today is mostly corn. This isn't just meat dramatic. It's something that scientists have been able to prove. How do they do this? By tracing the element carbon as it goes from the atmosphere into plants, then into our food, and finally into us. You may have heard the expression that humans are a carbon-based life form. This always seems to come up in science fiction movies, but it's true. Like hydrogen and oxygen, carbon is an element, one of the basic building blocks of matter. All the molecules that make up our cells, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, contain the element carbon. All of the carbon in our bodies was originally floating in the air as part of a carbon dioxide molecule. Plants take the carbon out of the carbon dioxide and use it to make food, carbohydrates. They do this through a process called photosynthesis. In photosynthesis, plants use the energy of the sun, Photo means light, to synthesize or make food.
Okay. So here you're getting a lot of scientific information. Photosynthesis. Photo meaning light, synthesis meaning to make. Carbohydrates, proteins, fats. You can talk to Miss Huffer about this because she does all the science for you. But plants go through a major scientific process in order to create the food that we eat.
All of our food, in fact, almost all life on Earth, can be traced back to photosynthesis in plants. It's more than a figure of speech to say that plants create life out of thin air. So the plants take carbon and make it into food. Then we eat the plants, or we eat animals that have eaten the plants. That's how the carbon winds up in our cells. But not all carbon is the same. Corn uses slightly different types of carbon than other plants. So by looking at the type of carbon in our cells, scientists can tell how much corn we have been eating. Todd Dawson, a biologist at the University of California, Berkeley, has done exactly that kind of research. He says that when you look at the carbon in the average American cells, we look like corn chips with legs. Americans don't think of themselves as corn eaters. Our bread is made from wheat flour. We don't eat a lot of corn on the cob. When we think of serious corn eaters, we often think of people in Mexico. About 40% of their calories come directly from corn, mostly in the form of corn tortillas. Yet Americans have more corn in our diet than Mexicans. It's just that the corn we eat wears many different disguises. How did corn take over America? It's really a tremendous success story for corn, anyway. Corn has managed to become the most widely planted crop in America. More than 80 million acres of farmland are planted with corn every year. Today, it covers more acres of the country than any other living species, including human beings. It has pushed other plants and animals off the American farm. It has even managed to put a lot of farmers off the farm. I'll explain that one later. Corn is now one of the most successful plants on Earth. It's important to remember that while humans use plants and other animals, it's not a one-way street. Plants and animals don't just sit around waiting for human beings to use them. They use us too. The ones that can adapt to their farms and cities to spread and multiply. Corn became king of the farm in the supermarket because it adapted itself easily to the needs of farmers and food makers. It had qualities that the human beings prized. Those qualities allowed it to spread and grow until it worked its way into every corner of our lives and every cell in our bodies. The rise of maize, page 23. When Columbus returned to Spain after his first voyage, he described many wonderful things he had seen to Queen Isabella. One of his discoveries was a towering grass with an ear as thick as a man's arm, to which grains were affixed in a wondrous manner and in form and size like garden peas, white when young. That grass was called maize, but today we know it as corn. Corn began as a wild grass called teosinte. Teosinte means mother of corn in the Native American language, Nahuatl. Teosinte still grows wild in some places in Central America, but if you saw it, you might not recognize it as the mother of corn. Teosinte ears are no bigger than your thumb. They are not covered in thick husks. The kernels are tiny seeds, yet long before Columbus arrived, that wild grass had managed to evolve into maize and spread across North America.
Okay, so important note that you need to have is that the wild grass called teosinte is found in Central America, and teosinte is considered to be the mother of corn. So that's something that you're going to need to know. Christopher Columbus arrived and discovered this um, food, the maize, and spread it across North America. So he's one of the reasons that it went everywhere in America.
Corn spread because it could adapt to the needs of human beings. Of course, it needed human help. Humans selected bigger ears with fatter kernels and planted those seeds. By the year 700, Indians as far away as New England and Canada farmed maize. Corn had begun its march to world domination, but it still had a long way to go. After Columbus, the Native Americans were conquered by the Europeans. But maize, or corn, had no loyalties to the Maya and other people who had helped it spread. It was only concerned with its own survival. The Europeans presented a way for corn to spread even farther. The plant quickly adapted to the new humans and their needs. The first thing corn did was push aside the European crops the new settlers brought with them. The European plants just couldn't compete. For example, wheat brought from Europe did not do as well as the native maize. A seed of wheat might, with luck, yield 50 new grains of wheat. A single planted corn could yield 150 to 300 fat kernels. Corn won that contest easily. Corn continued quickly to win over the new settlers by being very useful. It could supply them with a ready-to-eat vegetable, a storable grain, a source of fiber, an animal feed, and heating fuel. Corn could be eaten fresh off the cob or dried on the stalk, stored over the winter, and ground.
We're missing a page. That's really weird. Because it just jumps to chapter 2. Oh, sorry guys, for some reason it's skipping a whole page. Because this is chapter 2. All right, let's finish listening. It's not that much, but I don't know where that page went to.
Into flour. Corn could also be mashed and fermented to make beer or whiskey. No part of the big grass went to waste. The husks could be woven into rugs and twine. The leaves and stalks made good feed for livestock. The shelled cobs could even be stacked by the outhouse and used as a rough substitute for toilet paper. In the competition for king of crops, corn left the European plants in the dust. Settlers who stuck to the old world crops often perished. The colonists who recognized corn's usefulness did well. And of course, one thing the successful farmers did was plant more corn, helping maize to build its kingdom. Corn helped the colonists, and the colonists helped corn. Corn made itself useful in one other important way. It turned out that corn was an excellent way to store and trade wealth. Dried corn is easy to transport and almost indestructible. The farmer can take any surplus to market and sell or trade it. In the new colonies, corn often took the place of money. Corn allowed farming settlements to become trading settlements. Corn made the slave trade possible. Traders in Africa paid for slaves with corn and then fed slaves corn when they were brought here. Corn was the perfect plant for the growing economy of the colonies. And just as important, the new colonists gave corn a way to get to the rest of the world. M. Poland, Food Detective, page 27. Once I realized how much of our food is made from corn, I began to look at supermarkets differently. Instead of a giant variety of food, I saw corn hiding in every aisle. Now I have nothing against corn. There's nothing more delicious than a roasted ear of fresh, sweet corn. But I didn't understand why there had to be corn in everything we eat. Who decided that corn would be our main food? How did that happen? Where did all this corn come from, and how did it take over the supermarket? So I decided to find out. And like any good detective, I realized I had to start at the very beginning, which in this case meant a field of corn in Iowa. I began with that field and tried to trace the corn as it traveled across the country, first to my supermarket, then to my stomach. I watched it being turned into meat, milk, and eggs by cows and chickens. I watched as it was torn apart and rebuilt into all the different foods and products listed on all those labels. What I discovered was a vast industry, a giant agriculture business or agribusiness. This industry doesn't look much like farming the way most people imagine it. It's more like a series of factories that turn raw materials into food products. It's a giant food chain, the one that supplies most of the food Americans eat today. A food chain in nature helps us understand who eats what or whom. But the food chain that feeds most Americans is anything but natural. The industrial food chain that supplies our supermarkets stretches thousands of miles and has dozens of different links. It's a chain that's powered by oil and gasoline and controlled by giant corporations. It's a chain that separates us from our food and keeps us from knowing what it really is we're eating. Most of all, it's a food chain built around one plant. Somehow, that small wild grass that started in the hills of Central America has become the star of the biggest, most expensive food chain in the history of the world. But if corn is the star of this story, is it the hero or the bad guy? Before I could decide, I needed to get to know it better. And so I went to see where it lives in the vast cornfields of the Midwest.
Okay, sorry about that. It skipped a whole bunch of pages. Remember, you can check out the book through Destiny Library on our webpage, and that way you can go through and look at it. What type of literature is this when it has images and captions? What type of literature is this? Put it in the chat, please. What are we reading here? What is this type of literature called? You have pictures, you have all these scientific words. Good, Bianca. Nonfiction is what she said. A picture book? Not quite a picture book. But you've got pictures that are descriptive and tell you scientific information. And if this is scientific, what does that make it? Excellent. Nonfiction. Yeah. Good job. So notice that you have subheadings, you have the images, you have information with the images, you have subtext. All of this creates a nonfiction story. I still don't know why it's skipping pages, but we'll figure it out. So before you get ready to go, and it's not time to go yet, almost, I need for you to take a look at what I have here. This is your information about what we're doing right now. You have the 2 videos that I just played for you. I'm going to also put up there the instructions for you. And when you go into your Google Classroom, you will find lessons, the lesson for this text, okay? Open. There we go. Now, if you click on this, it will give you information that you want to take notes with. It'll show you some slides as soon as it loads. These slides will go over what you're going to need to know for this activity. It tells you what your target goals are. It gives you questions that you need to answer in your notes. So this is what you'll see. And as you go through, it's going to tell you that this module is about food choices. You're going to need a vocabulary log, which is going to be your composition book. Okay, so you need to have this for tomorrow in order for us to be able to start working in it. Your vocabulary will be in here, plus your reflections and other notes that we have. You still need your notebook though. And independent reading journal will be in the composition book as well. As you're going through here, the engage the learner was the images that we looked at. And then your entrance ticket is your inferences, learning targets. You can infer and you can select research reading text that you want to read about food, okay? So you need to find in that library a book or an article or something in Destiny Library that talks about food, all right? Then you're going, that's to help you with your inferencing. Is going to be in your notes. And then you have your I notice, I wonder note catcher. Right now it's on Google Classroom, but eventually we're going to be putting it in your notebook. Okay. Then what did you think about the pictures? What did you think about the chapter 1? Answer the questions for yourself. We're not sharing right now because we're online. It's a little difficult. But when we get in the classroom, we'll be able to do more talking to each other and moving around the classroom. So this is the story. You will have vocabulary words. They give you the word and the definition. You'll have to put your own sentence with it. But we're going to talk about that more tomorrow. Okay? You need to have your other essays completed because you have an argumentative essay that is coming up. That's your performance task. It's to write an argumentative essay. So if you haven't finished the other 2 essays, you got some writing to do. You need to get them completed. All right? Because our argumentative essay is coming up. Again, more vocabulary with the definition. Use your own sentence to use to incorporate that word. Answer the questions. This is for your I wonder, I notice activity. And here's your guided questions. Okay, these are questions that you need to be answering throughout the quarter. Make sure that you write these down and leave space for your answer before and after. Okay, we're gonna do the I notice, I wonder, another couple of vocabulary words. And then your research reading. You are going to find a book that you want to read, independent. We're going to use this to do your research reading in. You will log some of your ideas and your choices. You'll respond to the prompt for homework in your journal, okay? And here's your information. So make sure that you are reading this to help you. All right, this is on Google Classroom. I also added I can infer here so that way you have a document to put it on. And you also have your I notice, I wonder form. Okay, So those are the things that you're going to be working on, plus finish those essays. That's your work for today. Any questions? Put it in the chat if you have questions. No questions? Or you can email me or put it into Google Classroom. That's fine as well. Oh, I have one more thing I need to show you. If you want to write some of these down, you can. These are some of the things that the other class, last class, noticed. You can write them down for your I notice form. These are the things that they said they wonder about. I wonder why corn is used in so many products. I wonder if corn syrup is in everything we eat. I wonder how long corn has been around. Some pretty good questions. Try to add some questions or statements of your own, okay? And then you'll be finished with your I notice, I wonder page. So I have absolutely no questions. All right, you're free to go. See you later. See you tomorrow. Happy days. Take care.